Crash Bandicoot, the Sane Trilogy. This game has the first three games originally developed by Naughty Dog, redeveloped by Vicarious Vision, produced by Activision, all gloriously remastered in HD for the PlayStation 4. How does this game hold up? Well, I just beat all three of these games this week, after having the game for about a month. And boy, let me tell you, it brings back so many great feelings. Now, understandably, if any of you have played Crash 1 on this re-release, it may seem harder, and Activision has actually come out and said that the physics they use for all three games are the Crash 3 physics, which is why it might seem harder on Crash 1. Because, figuratively, and literally actually, in 1996 when Crash Bandicoot 1 came out for the PlayStation 1, it has a whole different physics engine than what we got in this game. Now, when I was playing Crash 1, it definitely was a whole lot harder than I remembered. It wasn't a bad game on this, and understandably, I'm going to admit, even playing Crash 1 back in the day, I sucked at it. The boss battles were hard, the levels were amazingly hard, and understandably, probably old school video games were harder back in the day, and definitely were harder back in the day. Crash 1 definitely holds up fine though. Once you understand the controls, once you figure out what you're doing, the game plays fine. Now, Crash 2. Crash 2 was the one Crash Bandicoot game I owned for the PlayStation 1 back in the day, and I was very excited to play this remaster. Now, Crash 2, even with the Crash 3 physics, plays so much more like I remembered. The game was not hard at all to get through, and I pretty much just breezed through Crash 2. The levels, the design, Crash, they all look fantastic across the board. When it comes to even discovering the secret routes by getting the special gems and by doing this and by doing that, the game still plays really, really fun. Granted, some of the controls are a little different. Like, in some levels, when you're in the jetpack, they allow you to press R2 now to accelerate, which I swear back in the day was the X button, and everything when it came to acceleration back in the day was the X button before they started using the trigger buttons. Crash 2 still plays amazing. Then Crash Bandicoot 3, Warped. Game is still fantastic. It all plays amazing. I just beat that, and I was very, very satisfied with Crash 3. Granted, even though back in the day Crash 3 was definitely the easiest of the bunch, and in this trilogy, it's still the easiest of the bunch. I barely died in Crash 3, whereas I died a lot in Crash 1 and a little bit in Crash 2. Crash 3, I started yesterday, and I just beat it. I basically ran through that game. And, you know, what's great about the n.sane Trilogy is that Vicarious Visions didn't try to make Crash any different than he actually was. The games are very true to their level design. They're true to what they are and what they were back in 1996 through 1999 under Naughty Dog. One little gripe I had about this game, though, and it's a little stupid thing, and I understand that they didn't have to do it, but I really wish they would have mentioned, like, original games developed by Naughty Dog. Granted, these games were redesigned from the ground up, but it would be nice to at least give that acknowledgement. But that's whatever. That's a little, like, nitpicky thing, and understandably, Activision owns the license. Vicarious developed the games pretty much from the ground up, just using the original games as inspiration and pretty much as a blueprint. However, when it comes down to the actual games, they play great. The voice acting is a little different, I've noticed, but they still hold up to that smoothness that you knew Crash Bandicoot was, minus Crash Bandicoot 1. And, you know, I love the fact that 2 and 3 always had the warp room, whereas 1 had, like, that world map, the island map, basically. I was overly excited when this game got announced back in 2016, last year it was, because the outcry for Crash to get some HD remasters for a while was there. And Activision, I guess, never really took it seriously until it just became too much that they couldn't ignore it anymore. And I remember at E3, when this game was announced, the whole crowd went wild. Because if you're a mid-20s gamer like me, even an early 20s gamers like me that grew up with a PlayStation 1, you knew you had to play Crash Bandicoot. That was essentially PlayStation's mascot in the early years. And granted, after Naughty Dog got bought by Sony and Universal retained the rights, Crash went on to be multi-platform. And you know, after that though, Crash really just wasn't the same. For worse, actually, in my opinion. Naughty Dog made the better games. Once you had like Mind Over Mutant, Twinsanity, where people might find them as fun games. To me, they just weren't what I grew up with. And to me, Crash, after the Naughty Dog era, never really evolved to how it should have to continue the franchise, which is why Activision basically buried the franchise for so long. And I think at one point it even didn't renew the trademark. But when they announced that they were remastering the first 3 games, which is the 3 games that everyone, almost everyone, because there's probably a few people that don't, but they were the games everyone loved. They were the games everyone remembered. And on nothing alone, this was going to sell on nostalgia. Now, I don't even think Activision thought this was going to sell out as well as it did, because even after the initial print run, this game was sold out for like a week and a half on Amazon, and understandably so. A lot of people with PlayStation 4s are people that grew up in the 90s, and they just wanted Crash back. They wanted to remember a little bit of their childhood, and granted this game might have sold on nostalgia factor, but the fact that the game still hold up, and they were recreated beautifully without really changing any of the source material, proves in itself why Crash Bandicoot is a franchise that even in a time when platformers have been dying out, this game, you put it out, it definitely still holds up. With that being said, guys, have you played the Sane Trilogy? What did you think of it? Did you get as frustrated as I did with Crash 1 being harder than we all remember? Leave your comments below. Thank you for watching this review. Go check out Crash Bandicoot, the Sane Trilogy for the PlayStation 4. As always, thank you for watching. You guys have a great day.